All right, well, welcome to the Sports Guys, another edition of Weekend Recap. We're going to be going over some epic games from the weekend in the NFL. College took a little break until this coming Thursday, Friday night. That's going to be really cool, but this weekend was all about the NFL, and it was super epic. There's a lot of great games, a lot of playoff implications across the league. Some bad teams also played each other, so we got to see some third-string matchups, but for the most part, it was really good football all weekend. How you doing, Robbie?
Doing really well, really well. Great weekend of football. Sort of recovering from the holiday, sort of coming to an end. Had to get the kids ready for school this morning for the first time in 3 weeks, so it was cool. It was good. Let's rock and roll 2025.
That's great. Yes, like I said, I felt like NFL season, most of the weekends were good. We talked about college was just epic this year. It was so good. This was the best NFL weekend I'd seen in a long time. I mean, it was like almost every game had some kind of major consequence, either playoff implications, seeding, in some cases, quarterbacks playing for their jobs, coaches playing for their jobs, whether someone was going to get the first pick or the fifth pick in the NFL draft. It just really felt like there was a lot of consequence in every single game this weekend. It made it really exciting.
Yeah, and on top of all that, you'd be watching a play and they're like, he just caught that ball and he just made $3 million. Like,
yeah,
what?
a lot of bonuses. Yeah,
He just ran for his 1,000 yards and now he gets, $850,000. Like, oh my
I think
God.
Geno Smith had the most I've ever seen. He had 3 different $2 million bonuses. So he had $6 million on the line.
Yeah.
And he had to hit a certain number of receptions, a certain number of yards, and a certain percentage, like completion percentage for the year. And he hit all three in the same.
There wasn't any of that this year because there were no incentives hitting until your last game. You know what I mean? So
right.
People were hitting records. They were hitting incentives. Teams were losing or winning. It was wild because a lot of times the better team didn't necessarily win because their quarterback was resting, and they were, the desperate team was losing, and the team that's not really playing for anything was winning big and stuff like that. So it was a very cool, weird weekend where just a whole lot of unpredictability was in there. I mean, there's always parity in the NFL, and this weekend was even more strange than normal.
And you notice a lot of the players and coaches really wanted their players to get those bonuses. So like with Mike Evans, there was 5 seconds left in the game and the Buccaneers were winning by 8 points. They could have easily just kneeled down, but instead he only needed 5 yards. So they ran a play. And it was almost like the other team didn't mind. They kind of understood because he had $3 million on the line.
Yeah.
If he hit 1,000 yards. So.
And that was a very unique element to this weekend that we hadn't seen all the rest of the year. There were no, like, he just made this bonus, just made that bonus. It was in every game. It was wild.
And for him to hit 11 straight years of 1,000 yards to actually tie Jerry Rice, which no one ever thought would ever happen again, is I think that pretty much sealed his ticket to Canton.
Absolutely.
Which he probably was already going to get, but
he was going already. But 11 years in a row.
Any other big games hit you from the weekend? Any really? I mean, there were a lot of great games.
I mean, all weekend I was looking forward to Minnesota, Detroit. I'm not going to say it was the best game all weekend, but that was the one I was looking forward to the most. I don't know, a lot of great ones. It's hard to pick, one or two.
I think the Commanders' finish against the Cowboys was huge. The fact that they had lost to them early in the year in real disappointing fashion, they were able to pull that game out with a backup quarterback, Marcus Mariota, on the last drive to Scary Terry, which was an incredible throw, incredible catch. That was a great finish. Of course, my Panthers got another win in overtime, knocked the Falcons out of the playoffs. That was huge. 44-38 in overtime, and Bryce.
That was an unusual game.
Bryce looks so incredible. I just never thought he could ever reach this level, and he feels like it's not even hit his ceiling yet. So,
he's still improving.
Yeah.
So but you know what? He's a perfect example of all these young quarterbacks. You need to give them time, and if you don't give them time, it's malpractice.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling you about Bryce. Just hang on. Let's sit him down.
Whereas
that should be happening to some of these struggling young quarterbacks now, like Richardson. Don't throw away on Richardson. Just sit him down, Let him carry the clipboard.
Play
Let him
Flacco.
learn
Yeah.
behind Flacco. That is what is required when you're a young quarterback struggling like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
Doesn't mean he's automatically going to make it, but it gives him a good chance.
How do you explain the C.J. Stroud slippage this year? I mean, he really was not even nearly the same quarterback. He was missing wide open throws.
He got a little overhyped. I think his team took a step back in talent, and people were gunning for him. They didn't sneak up on anybody this year, so I think they were able to draft well last year, and then I think this year's draft wasn't as good. So,
and then what about the Russell Wilson Steelers slide? I mean, he had this huge arc in the beginning of the year, all the way through the middle of the season, where he was really playing great, and they were talking Pro Bowl and everything, and then they go on this 4-game losing streak at the end of the year, to the point now where they don't look anything like they did even 5-6 weeks ago.
I really think it was a Pickens slide. I think Pickens fell off the table.
But their defense isn't the same. It's not playing that well.
He was really crushing it during those weeks when Russell was putting up numbers. So I just felt like something happened where they kind of got on a different page.
The defense isn't playing as well the last couple weeks.
Wasn't as good.
Najee Harris can't run the ball all of a sudden.
I think they were getting overhyped.
Maybe.
C.J. Stroud was getting overhyped. The Steelers were getting overhyped.
Yep. Well, we finally reached the stage of the playoffs, but before we do that, we're going to go through all the games with you guys right now. So let's get into it.
Let's go.
All right, so this is our weekend recap, January 6, 2025. As we head into the new year, we're on to the NFL playoffs after Week 18 is complete. The first headline we got here, Terry McLaurin's late TD propels Commanders to win over Cowboys and seizes the number 6 seed away from Green Bay, which everyone thought Green Bay was going to get that seed, but they went from 7 to 6, which was huge because whoever gets the 6 gets to go play Tampa Bay instead of the Philadelphia Eagles. So what were your thoughts about not only this catch, this comeback, but also kind of the Commanders stealing the number 6 seed away from Green Bay?
Well, it was impressive. They were down, just a few seconds left, and backup quarterback's in. It kind of sort of Dallas was not good at home this year. And it was exciting to watch some of these young players step up and cap off a really nice season, and unexpectedly good. So,
yeah, and you know what's interesting? There were some accusations in this game that Jerry Jones played Trey Lance instead of Cooper Rush because Cooper Rush was very close to some really big bonuses in his contract.
Yep.
And apparently there's a lot of grumbling in the Cowboys locker room because he cost him about $1.2 million by playing Trey Lance. So I don't think that's going to bode very well with the Cowboy players. I don't think. I mean, a lot of the teams wanted their players to hit their bonuses. So I don't know. That was an interesting dynamic. But one thing I realized in this game, the Commanders are for real. They have a real team. They've got great weapons, and they have a really good backup quarterback. I feel very comfortable with Mariota that he can give you a win when you need it. He can come in and be functional. Clearly, he's not Jaden, but
they've really improved the talent level on all their elements of their team, all 3 phases, a little better every year.
And a really good coaching job by Dan Quinn. I think you have to give him credit. And, that whole staff has been really, really good this year. So I was super pumped on this play. I was watching it live, and I jumped up and I clapped my hands, and I was just super excited about this one. So can't wait to see. I think the Commanders have a good shot against the Bucs. We'll see. It's going to be in Tampa. The next headline was Falcons lose shootout with Panthers miss the playoffs.
That was crazy.
Yeah, I actually picked the Bucs to win that division. You picked the Falcons. I look back at it, and you had good reason to. But
I was nervous though because the Falcons' D is terrible, and they didn't upgrade. So I didn't feel great about it. But I will say the Falcons were about what I expected. The Bucs were better than I expected.
Yeah, and I think Baker continues to impress. they're paying him $30 million a year. He's really a bargain in the current NFL system.
Oh yeah.
And he's just playing at a really high level, and all his teammates are as well. So I like the Bucs. I don't know, and we'll see if the Commanders can do anything on the road there. But really happy for my Panthers. Finished really strong, and I'm really excited to see what they can do next year. They're probably 2 or 3 players away from really playoff contention. So that's all you can ask for. So next headline here is Packers lose Jordan Love, Christian Watson to injury, and fall to Bears on walk-off field goal. So that was one of the many games this weekend that was a one-score game. That's why one of the reasons it was so exciting. But any concern here? Looks like Christian Watson's out for the season. And
yeah, Christian Watson got really hurt. I don't think Love is that hurt.
Yeah, it looks like he hurt his funny bone, which I don't think that's really a sustainable injury. But
no, I think he'll be okay.
What do you think are the Packers' chances, though, trying to go into Philadelphia with kind of a banged-up team right now?
Very little. I think Philadelphia's going to run it down their throat.
Mm-hmm. Saquon Barkley all day.
Yeah, I've felt like the Packers' defense was pretty good this year, but definitely was a little weaker over the last 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I felt like they were faltering a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. They were one of my sneaky dark horse teams to maybe make it all the way to the Super Bowl this year, but that was early in the year before any of the games started. And it was one of the predictions I had that they would knock the 49ers off in the playoffs. I just felt really good about the Packers. But they've just sustained so many injuries along with the Lions that I just don't think they're the same team they were even 6 weeks ago. So I don't see it happening. I agree with you. So next one is Party Like It's 2015. The reason it's Party Like It's 2015 is that was the last time the Broncos were in the playoffs, and they actually beat my Panthers in the Super Bowl. They beat the Chiefs to break their playoff drought and eliminate both the Bengals and the Dolphins. Both the Bengals and Dolphins were hanging on by a thread, and both of them needed the Broncos to lose this game, which wasn't going to happen because the Chiefs put in Carson Wentz, who hadn't played a game in 2.5 years. So what were your thoughts about this one?
It was a wipeout. I mean, it was a complete rout.
Mm-hmm.
Wentz was lost. It was a pitiful performance.
It really was. It was kind of sad. They couldn't run the ball. They had that guy Sage Steele who's an undrafted free agent. They essentially put in third stringers the entire game.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I couldn't tell if it's that the Broncos are good or that the Chiefs just put in their third stringers, or maybe it was a little bit of both.
It was both.
Yeah. I think the fact that the Bengals and Dolphins were expecting the third string Chiefs to win this game was kind of silly because the Broncos had to have it. So
I don't know, though. That was the kind of weird stuff that was happening a lot, was teams that really shouldn't win, like all teams full of third string backups, they were winning. So
True.
Not in this particular case,
no.
But there was a lot of that all weekend.
For that. And Bo Nix had some of the prettiest throws of the entire year in this game.
Oh, yeah. He looked good.
He can really throw the ball. Wow. So I think Broncos fans should be very, very happy. Our friend Zach Thompson, call out to you, man. You got to be happy.
Yeah. I told him.
Yeah,
I told him, and he said, I don't think so.
You said Bo Nix, yeah.
I said, Denver's going to be a lot better. Bo Nix is a great pick, and he wasn't sure. He was pretty skeptical, but I get it. Like, when your team is bad for long enough, you start to have the doubts,
Right. Next headline, Chargers overcome Raiders to earn the number 5 seed and a playoff game at Houston. Chargers are going on the road into Houston. So first of all, what are your thoughts about this game? But secondly, what do you think about their chances in Houston?
There's a lot of great plays in this game, especially on the Raiders side. But the Chargers just have a way of willing themselves to victory.
This was one of Herbert's best games in a long time. I mean, he had some beautiful throws in this game.
Herbert's great game. I think it was really good coaching. It was one of Harbaugh's finest performances. I was really impressed with a lot of what the Raiders were doing. So
I agree. I think the Raiders played really well, and yet they lost by 2 touchdowns. So that kind of shows you where those two franchises are right now.
Yeah.
I think the Chargers are going to go in and beat Houston. I really do.
No, I do too. Absolutely.
Yeah. I really think they're a better team right now.
They're going to pound the ball, and Herbert's going to make some nice plays.
And Houston's in a dome, which the Chargers are used to playing in. So I think it'll be a very familiar type environment. So we'll see. So next one we got is Bucs beat Saints to win the NFC South and eliminate the Falcons. And I have a picture there epic picture of Mr. Baker Mayfield, who's had maybe his finest season as a pro.
Absolutely his finest season.
So what are your thoughts about kind of how they played not only this game, but just generally their overall season? The Bucs, we didn't really see this coming.
The Bucs have become one of the most fun teams to watch in the NFL. They play loose. Baker's pitching the ball when you can tell it's not part of the play. When it breaks down, he's downfield throwing blocks.
He's running the ball for 40 yards and then he spikes the ball like he's got a touchdown.
Yeah.
And he's just so like emotional. It's funny.
He had Baker had 68 yards rushing.
Right.
That's a lot for your quarterback. I mean,
I know. You know, I picked them to win this division, but at 9-8, I thought it'd be a really bad division, which it was.
I think this division's terrible, and I don't think the Bucs have much chance, but they're going to make it exciting. They're one of the most exciting teams in football.
They won the division like I thought, but they were better than I thought they were going to be this year. But I think it'll be a good game with the Commanders. I'm not sure who's going to come out on top in that game.
Oh, I think the Commanders win this one.
I hope so. We'll see. So next one is Ravens lock up the AFC North and get the number 3 seed with their win over the Browns. They actually blew them off the field. It was so sad to see what used to be this great rivalry, and these two franchises are in such different places. So they've already announced they're going to keep Stefanski, so the Browns are trying to keep their coaching intact, but I have to think they're going to draft a quarterback, right? I mean, their quarterback situation is totally untenable. They've got all these guys you never heard of. And then Deshaun Watson, who just hasn't worked out. So, but let me tell you, the Ravens look like they're in peak playoff form after this game.
We'll see.
They really look
I don't
good.
trust their game plans. When Lamar Jackson has a big game, they win. I don't care who they play. And when they don't make Lamar Jackson, I'm sorry, Derrick Henry. When Derrick Henry is a huge part of the game plan, they win. When he's not a big part of the game plan, they lose inexplicably. And I don't trust these coaches to understand that.
You saw what he did in this game. He had a huge game.
He had 238 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. Huge game for Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Derrick Henry looked great.
He was just bowling them over. So the last headline here, Aaron Rodgers throws 4 TDs as the Jets beat the Dolphins. Of course, the Dolphins were playing Huntley and not Tua. So is this more about Aaron Rodgers auditioning for next year? He's likely not going to be a Jet. Is this more about the Dolphins with Huntley are just not a great team, even though they were in the playoff hunt? What is this more about?
The Dolphins did not secure a solid backup quarterback situation, and they paid the price for it this year.
Yeah.
The good teams that lost their quarterback for a few weeks were fine. And
the other thing you said at the beginning of the year, you were saying you thought the Dolphins could win the division. However, you said if they don't, it's going to be because of their defense. And
yeah, pretty
that
much.
was the other thing. They didn't address the defense very much either. They do have a great corner.
They lost more than they gained. They lost Van Kinkel. They lost some interior linemen on defense. They lost a bunch of players, and they replaced some of them, but it wasn't enough. They were going to go backwards from a mediocre defense last year to a terrible defense now, pretty much.
So in a playoff elimination game, they let 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers just throw all over them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Crazy. All right, well, let's look at this first game, the Ravens-Browns. We were just talking about this. Let's look at the stats. You had the Browns play 2 quarterbacks, Bailey Zappi and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And neither one had particularly had a great game. Zappi threw 2 picks. Lamar Jackson had his real standard 2 touchdown type game, ran the ball well. So did Derrick Henry. Nothing really on the Brown side of note.
Well, I mean, anytime Derrick Henry runs like that, they win. And Lamar Jackson had he passed the 4,000 passing yards and 900 rushing yards mark, which is very elite company to have that.
That's right.
Unbelievable.
You look at his QBR of 70 and you look at the Browns QBR of 19. It kind of tells the whole story, right? I mean, you just have no chance if you can't get good quarterback play in the NFL and run the ball, which they couldn't either. So, again, I'm not sure if the Ravens have rounded into shape like I think they have, but we're going to find out. So the Bengals took care of business against the Steelers, dropping the Steelers for the fourth game in a row. Bengals win this game, but then find out the disappointing news they've been eliminated by the Broncos. Joe Burrow has another really solid game. You had Jamar Chase go off like he always does with 10 catches and a touchdown. Russell Wilson, very subpar, poor game with a 31 QBR. Najee Harris continues his slide. He just does not have an impact the last half of the season. What were your thoughts on this game?
I felt like the Steelers actually, their defense did a good job. They held the Bengals to Cade York, the kicker for Cincy, hit 4 of 4 field goals and an extra point. So I don't know that the defense for the Steelers could have done much more against Joe Burrow. I mean, the defense did great. I think the Steelers offense got exposed for being really, really poor. And there were games this year where Russell Wilson looked pretty good, but for the most part, I think that offense needs to be completely revamped.
Is it possible they have the worst offense in the playoffs? I think
Probably. Yeah.
I think so.
Who's worse?
I don't know. I look at the playoff teams and I'm like, I think the Steelers have the worst offense. They definitely have one of the better defenses, but
top 5 defense, bottom 5 offense.
Right. Although the defense did fade a little bit in the second half of the year.
A little, but I mean, they held Cincy to the stats were they did a nice job. They didn't give up huge plays.
You can see
this is Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase here.
And you can see this is 5 weeks in a row where George Pickens didn't have an impact, and so that really hurt the Steelers when he's not playing.
Yeah,
you got Mike Williams with 1 catch.
Yeah,
you have Jamar.
Pickens to Cincy is kind of like Henry to Baltimore. It'll tell you how the team's going to do today by watching how he's playing.
You mean Pickens to Pittsburgh? You said
Pickens to Pittsburgh is like Henry to Baltimore. When they play well, they're a scary team. When they don't,
AJ Brown to the Eagles, they're similar.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Although the Eagles can beat you in more ways.
I was surprised by this Cincinnati receiving. You had Gesicki had a huge game, and of course T. Higgins always has a good game. So
Gesicki's had a good couple weeks.
He's really been coming on.
Yeah.
So he's
in a contract year or something.
Yeah, maybe so. So this was an interesting game. Bengals got it done, but obviously they get knocked out. Broncos, we mentioned this game. We don't have to go into too much detail. I did want to point out Carson Wentz with 98 yards passing with a team that everyone thinks is a Super Bowl contender. And then they had like 30 yards rushing as a team or something.
It was crazy. I mean,
it just
first downs 29-5.
Right.
Third downs 1 and 9, 1 for 9 Kansas City and 10 for 14 Denver.
Bo Nix with a
red zone 0 for 0. The Chiefs and 4 of 5 for the Broncos.
Right.
Inside the 20. So.
And it was interesting. Bo Nix, not only did he have 321 for 4 touchdowns and a 152 rating, but then he had 47 yards rushing. I mean, the guy can really run.
Yeah.
He's deadly. And then Cortland Sutton continues to be one of the top 10 receivers in the NFL.
And Bo Nix had 29 touchdowns. That's the second most for a rookie quarterback ever.
Yeah. He was impressive. You called it.
Yeah.
You called it. You said that he was going to be really, really good as a rookie. He doesn't play like a rookie, I'll tell you that.
He doesn't. Well, he's older. Mm-hmm. Like these guys that come in at 25, 24, they're ready. They need a little bit of seasoning, but not much.
Think he and Sean Payton are kind of the perfect pairing?
Yeah, their personalities team, they tend to kind of mesh pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
A little fiery. And he can push back.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
He likes that.
Well, we'll see. I'm hoping this doesn't, slow the Chiefs' momentum here because this could psychologically. I don't know. Maybe they just blew it off.
You definitely don't want to back into the playoffs getting blown out like that. That's an ugly, ugly look.
Kind of embarrassing.
I know it's still Andy Reid and Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes, but man, you do not want to go in getting slapped around like that. 38-0.
That's right. Well, let's talk about my Panthers. You see the Bryce Young stat line there. 25 for 34, 251 with 3 touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 5 total touchdowns in this game with a 123 rating. I just can't say enough about how well he's been playing the last couple of weeks. I'm just absolutely stunned. And you had Miles Sanders come back the last 2 weeks. It gave them a really nice punch in the running game. You have all these rookies.
That's because Chuba Hubbard was out too.
Yeah, exactly. You had all these rookies, Coker and Sanders and Javtavian Sanders, who's the rookie tight end, and then you had Thielen contributing. All of a sudden, all these guys are stepping up for the Panthers, and so I don't know. I don't really think they need to go out and get too many free agents. I think they just need defense at this point.
They need defense, and they need one more wide receiver.
On the other side of the ledger, Michael Penix had a really nice game. 312 with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
throws a really nice ball. I mean, I think he's really the answer there in Atlanta. Bijan Robinson went off in this game. He's really hard to stop. So did Algier, who's his backup. And then Drake London had
a monster game.
He had his career game. Yeah. So
Mooney got hurt and London took over.
This was no defense on either side.
No.
Yeah. So, but really proud of the Panthers picking up another win here.
Yeah.
Chargers, Raiders, we talked a little bit about this one. I do want to point out Herbert's stat line, 346. You don't usually see him up in that range because Harbaugh doesn't like to throw that much. But he was 28 for 36, 346 with 2 TDs and 125 rating. He also had a nice game from J.K. Dobbins. Every time he runs well, they have a good shot. And then I wanted to point out their young receivers. Quentin Johnson, who they got 2 years ago from TCU. And then Ladd McConkey, the rookie, had a good game. Will Dissly gets a touchdown. So just really balanced passing attack from the Chargers. And then a lot of people think O'Connell had his best game as a pro in this game. He actually played pretty well.
Yeah.
So, he did. Jacoby Myers had a big game. Brock Bowers always has a big game. I noticed Michael Mayer starting to chip in a little more the last couple of weeks. So they're getting both tight ends going. So I don't know. I think Raiders are putting some pieces together too.
Raiders are looking better. I think they just need some more players. Their roster isn't quite strong enough.
Right.
But they've added some nice. Just having Brock Bowers, he very well might be the best tight end in football.
I think he is.
As a rookie.
I know. He's
that's
that good.
Ridiculous.
I know.
We knew that he was going to be a great pick. In fact, I think I said that he was the most consequential pick in the whole draft.
You did.
Because I felt like if he went to a good team, that's a Super Bowl contender.
God, imagine if you can get him a top-level quarterback. Good Lord.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
You call this guy from Penn State the Brock Bowers of college this year, Warren.
Yeah, Warren.
We'll see. Next game, Seahawks take down the Rams in a really tight game.
It was a strange game.
This was Jimmy Garoppolo's first start in 2 years, and he actually had a huge game. He played really well.
Pretty good.
334 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick with a 97 rating. And then Geno Smith.
He wasn't that accurate, but.
Yeah, that's true.
Geno Smith, of course, mistakes.
Geno Smith had all those different incentives on the line, $6 million worth, and he got every single dollar of it and ended up.
Geno Smith went off. 4 touchdowns, no picks.
He did. And they spread the receiving around. He actually threw the ball to 9 different receivers in this game.
There was a bunch of them that were in that 50-yard, 60-yard range.
Right. Exactly. So this is a real solid game. Rams were already in the playoffs, didn't need this game to win, but there was some concern they might lose their playoff positioning. They still ended up winning the West. And so they're going to the playoffs and hosting a playoff game. So Seattle, I think, does have a good team. I think they're going into next year with some momentum. A lot of people think they need to finally go ahead and get their franchise QB because they've got a pretty good roster otherwise. So
yeah, it's pretty good. Guys like Charbonnet are working out really well, and
you get Jimmy Garoppolo a little experience in this game just in case something happens in the playoffs with Stafford.
sure.
So that was a good
It's
game.
not so much experience with Garoppolo; it's more getting him to gel with the other guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, you need a good quarterback in the backup position. Obviously, going into the playoffs, you need somebody sitting there who can play. This game, of course, absolutely epic for me. Last second touchdown, you see it there with McLaurin. Mariota with the 15 for 18 with 161 and 2 touchdowns. Jaden Daniels started the first quarter and then was limping a little bit. And they pulled him out for precaution for the rest of the game, put in Mariota the rest of the way. The Commanders were already in the playoffs, didn't need this game, but obviously would like to have it because they wanted that number 6 spot. Trey Lance played for the first time in 2 years, had an okay game, nothing special. They did get a really nice game, Cowboys, from Dowdle, who's their top back.
Mm-hmm.
And then McLaurin and Zacchaeus and Ertz and all those guys had really nice receiving days for the Commanders.
I will say, props to the Cowboys defense. They played pretty well. They were kind of a nightmare. 6 sacks, a fumble recovery, and 6 tackles for loss.
They did. And actually,
really
the Commanders defense played pretty well. It got a lot of pressure on Trey Lance.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see.
Yeah.
Didn't really let him be comfortable. But anytime the Commanders can beat the Cowboys, I'm very happy. So this was
Lance looked pretty mediocre. He'd have a nice throw and then he'd throw one in the dirt.
Yeah. He's not very experienced, and
not very good.
No one's ever really given him a chance to get experience because he's just not great.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how his development will go, but Dolphins get taken down by the Jets in a game that they had to have. Of course, we talked about Tyler Huntley starting. I'm not sure what Tua's prognosis was going into this game, but they went ahead and went with Huntley. He had won the week before. And Aaron Rodgers, who everyone thinks will not be with the Jets next year and was actually auditioning for a new team, played really, really well and had some nice throws. Shane had a fantastic rushing day for the first time in a long time. He had one rush that he didn't get in. He got taken down at the 5. And then, of course, the Dolphins didn't score on that drive. But overall, disappointing loss for the Dolphins and a really good win for the Jets to finish out the year. And, of course, the big quote coming out of this was, "I'm out, bro," by Tyreek, who now is making indications that he wants to move on from the Dolphins. So what were your thoughts on this game?
I mean, I watched it. It was a frustrating game to watch. Like, Shane had this monster run, and then they couldn't score. Huntley just, I don't know.
Jonnu Smith had his first
They didn't
fumble.
look like a playoff team,
Jonnu Smith had his first fumble of the year.
Yeah. Red zone, Miami was 2 of 5, and the Jets were 4 of 5,
Mm-hmm.
Those are just little indicators of how things are going at the end of drives. Are you getting it into the end zone, or are you having to settle for field goals?
You notice that Rodgers had all his guys this year with Devontae and Alan Lazard. These are guys he's comfortable with. They had big days. Yeah. And Brees
I think
Hall.
the biggest difference in this game was the Jets defense. They were a nightmare. 4 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and 2 fumble recoveries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
too many mistakes to win a game.
Way too many mistakes. Good plays by the Jets and mistakes by the Dolphins equal a loss.
So guess what the temperature was at game time for this game?
I don't know.
29 degrees. The Dolphins are now 0-14 the last 3 years, under 40 degrees.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. I'm sorry, it is 0-14.
But is it the main thing, or are we missing the point?
I mean,
would they have lost if they played in Tempe, Arizona?
It's not the only thing, but I'm saying there's something there. Like they just can't win at cold weather. I don't know what it is.
Well, I think it speaks to the culture is a little soft.
Is that what it is?
Soft. It's not that half these players are from Penn State and, places that are cold. Like it's not that they're not used to playing in cold. It's that they're soft and they kind of buckle in the cold. They're not.
So what about the Tyreek thing? Do you think that's just being emotional, or do you think he really does want out?
No, he said a few weeks ago he wanted out.
Okay.
And then he had the meltdown. So McDaniel called him out publicly. So I think that's almost irreparable at this
So
point.
it's probably better for the team if he moves on.
Yeah, they need to get a pick or two out of this and move on from him. He's not helping them enough to put up with all the headaches.
Kind of like the Bills cleaned out their receiver room to start over.
He's a lot like Diggs, just really
Diggs.
good receiver, but you don't necessarily want him on your team.
Yeah, that's right. Next game we had was the 49ers just continue their implosion. They started Joshua Dobbs in this game. He actually had a decent game, but had a couple really bad picks that never should have been thrown. And Kyler Murray just rolled it up on him. You can see here Patrick Taylor had a pretty good rushing game. Ricky Pearsall continues to come on as a rookie.
Yeah.
But this wasn't really much of a game. You had McBride and Harrison and all these guys just going off on the 49ers, who are just kind of a shell of themselves, what they used to be. What were your thoughts on this game?
You know what stat told me sort of the story of where these teams are? Well, I don't want to oversimplify it, but this stat kind of grabbed me. 13 for 85 yards penalties for San Francisco.
Right.
And 1 for 5 yards for Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big difference. Like that's a significant difference in the way you're playing the game.
So how do you explain that? Because you have Shanahan, who's
discipline
this
problems,
legendary coach, but
he's too laid back. Maybe doesn't care about I think if you don't care about special teams, you end up having everyone think you don't care about very much of anything. Do
you think he could just go get a really good special teams coach and just hand it over to him and just?
No, because I think what would happen is the team would sense that he doesn't care about special teams. I think he would need to be in there screaming about special teams, working with the punters, working with the long snappers, and I don't think he wants to do any of that. So,
right.
I heard an interesting interview with Bill with Belichick. Sorry. And he was talking about, they were asking him, what's the biggest jump in coaching from what level to what level? And he said, from coordinator to head coach is the highest jump. And he said, the reason is because the head coach doesn't deal anymore very much with X's and O's and plays and the players having to do with on the field. He has a lot more. They're handing him everything under the sun, from changing the carpet in the meeting rooms to travel questions to things about players are having personal crises. They have to deal with so many things that have nothing to do with what's on the field. And they spend a lot of their time working on personnel issues like hiring secretaries and lawyers, So head coaches end up dabbling in all kinds of things that, obviously the general manager does too, but head coaches are dealing with all kinds of things that aren't directly. And I think he said basically when you jump from coordinator to head coach, a lot of good coordinators can't hack it because there's no preparation for it. You don't deal with a lot of these things that head coaches have to deal with. So there's no substitute for experience. And I think Shanahan might be better as a coordinator. I don't know. It's not that I'm not sold on him. I think the amount of injuries he had to sustain this year was not sustainable. Although, look at Detroit Lions; they're winning and they're completely banged up.
So, what is your evaluation of Kyler Murray now and where he is? He just finished his 7th year. Okay, he's got 6 losing seasons and 1 winning season, and the 1 winning season was 9-7, and it was 3 years ago before they moved to the bigger schedule. And that year they started 8-2 and finished 9-7. And it just, when is he going to break out? I mean, next year's year 8. Is it an organizational thing? Is it that he's just wildly talented, but he's not disciplined? Like, I don't know. I keep waiting for him to break through and actually be a playoff quarterback.
I feel like he was more disciplined this year than I've seen him.
Yeah.
It seemed like there were a lot of strides.
I mean, he's
He was
wildly talented. I mean, we know
he was
that.
tired of hearing the criticisms about how he doesn't care, he doesn't watch film, all this stuff. He's a coach's son. That hurts his feelings. Like,
Yeah.
as a coach's son, if you're not willing to watch film, it's like letting your dad down.
I mean, now that they have McBride and Harrison and him going into his 8th year, and like,
Yeah.
when are they gonna make the playoffs?
Well, they had some flashes of real brilliance this year, I think.
Yeah, they did.
They had flashes.
They were kind of scary to play sometimes.
They had trouble sustaining it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't very impressed with their running game this year. I think if they were to add a great running back and maybe a lineman or two, they probably could be more consistent. I
They
heard
have
a
a
saying today on the radio. It was, you throw to score, but you run to win.
They had a great running back. He can't stay healthy. He can't stay on the field. He plays like 3 or 4
Right.
games a year.
I know. Connor's, I had him on my fantasy team.
I know.
I
He just
think
can't stay healthy.
he just can't stay healthy, and I think that's not going to change.
So you got to go get SgZ&x, right? I mean, you got to have someone who's
Something like that. Yeah, Genty or the guy from Tennessee, Samson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just asked that because I'm rooting for Kyler. I want to see him succeed, but it just feels like he'll never get over the hump. I don't know.
Also, they got to get Marvin Harrison some help.
Yeah.
I heard people saying Marvin Harrison might be a bust. I'm like, no way.
No, he's not.
As a rookie?
And this kid McBride was one of the nicest stories of the whole year. If it weren't for Brock Bowers, he would be the big story at tight end.
Yeah.
This guy McBride, he's incredible. So they had some nice things this year. They're kind of a mediocre team, but I think they're on the rise. This game was interesting. Bears get a last-second field goal to knock off the Packers. You had Jordan Love go out with the funny bone injury. Malik Willis come in, do some good things, but also just kind of inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Williams had a nice game.
Well, also Malik Willis got hurt too. So Jordan Love had to go back in and play hurt.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So Keenan Allen, decent game. Caleb Williams, decent game, but he just never really wows me. I don't know. DeAndre Swift ran the ball okay. DJ Moore had a really nice touchdown down the sideline, kind of tiptoe touchdown.
Oh, he had more than that.
That was really sweet.
DJ Moore played great. And on the special teams, he had that really special play, which was amazing.
Yeah.
He pretended like he was taking the punt, and he went over to one side and he pretended like he was catching it.
And this is a blood match.
The punt, what?
And this is a blood match between these two.
Yeah. So. And the punt actually went to the completely other side of the field, and his guy over there caught it, and everyone ran to DJ Moore's side to tackle him. It was really well executed, and the guy ran straight down the sideline for a score. That was a huge play in this game. I mean, you could say it was the difference in the game, score-wise.
That's true.
They relied on every phase they could to try and pull this victory out.
We had a huge game. You see Keenan Allen there, Roma Dunze. Of course, on the Packers side, Josh Jacobs had a nice touchdown. Dontavian Wicks had a couple really nice catches.
Yeah.
Jaden Reed. So it was just one of those in-division battles, but I still feel like the Packers should have won this game. I just can't imagine.
They should have. But I think it was a little bit of a letdown to have Christian Watson go out hurt. Yeah. And then you have Jordan Love get hurt, and then he goes out, and then Willis gets hurt. So they send Jordan Love back in hurt. That's not ideal. No, you don't want that going into the playoffs.
No.
Your quarterback has to go back in because your other quarterback's hurt.
Okay. The good news is they have a lot of receivers. They really do. So
yeah, they do. They're pretty deep receiver.
I think they'll be okay. I don't think they can beat Philadelphia, though.
I don't think so. Their defense has been faltering the last few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I see a lot of running down their throats for sure. So next game we had the Titans actually won a game. They had been kind of fading for a little bit. Actually won this game against a really bad. Actually, the Texans won this game.
Yeah.
Actually, this next game, the Texans won this game. They'd been fading for a while, but finally got one done against a really bad Titans team. In this game, C.J. Stroud only played a little bit of the first quarter just so he could say he started the game, but the plan was to keep him out most of it, and they put in Davis Mills, who had a pretty nice game, and Dameon Pierce had a couple amazing runs for Houston. Some unbelievable runs. He had that 192-yarder, which was really sweet to watch. And then Tennessee has a quarterback problem because neither one's very good. They had Will Levis and Mason Rudolph both in there. What were your thoughts on this one?
I mean, out of those two, I'm staying probably with Will Levis. I don't love the way he plays, but at least he's young and you can just keep developing him. My biggest takeaway from this game was the troll job that the Titans did by wearing the throwback uniforms for the Texans, because the Texans had asked for the Houston Oilers uniforms to be able to be using them. And,
that was hilarious.
And the Titans said no, and then they went on and wore them. So it was pretty great. That was a huge troll that I loved. It didn't really work, but
they didn't just wear the uniforms. Did you see they had them in the end zones? They had big signs that said Houston Oilers.
Yeah. So some of the stats were not that, fascinating, but red zone 1 for 4 for the Texans and 0 for 2 for Tennessee. Neither team played great. I mean, they just had, who's had a nice year is Calvin Ridley. He's had a really good year. But otherwise, Tennessee is really devoid of talented players.
What's interesting is the Titans, if they lost this game and if the Patriots won, which ended up happening, the Titans now have the number 1 pick in the draft. So
yeah,
it will be very interesting to see if they take that pick and move down and get a bunch of picks, which is what I would do.
Yeah.
Or if they're so tempted to go ahead and take Cam from Miami or one of the big quarterbacks coming out this year. I'll be really interested to see what they do. Again, they need draft capital. I think I would trade down and get 3 or 4 picks.
I would always do that. Yeah. If I'm 1 or 2 players away, I'm using my first round pick for 1 player. But if I'm a bunch of players away, I'm always trading down for more picks. I want multiple picks. I want to rebuild my team as quickly as I can.
There's no guarantee Cam Ward's going to be a big superstar in the NFL. It's just no guarantee. I think
you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, that's right. So that was something interesting came out of this. And obviously,
it was a nice scoop and score by the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a big difference.
The Texans were resting a lot of their guys as much as possible to try to get ready for their home playoff game, which is coming up. So, and the Titans obviously were in somewhat dumping mode because they want the first pick. So, next game we had was Jaguars Colts. This was kind of a back and forth affair. You had the Mac Jones against Joe Flacco, the 2 backups. Both had some nice moments and both had some bad moments. Joe Flacco definitely was the better quarterback. Jonathan Taylor had an absolute monster game, both rushing and receiving. Josh Downs continues to be the top receiver for the Colts, and he's from UNC Chapel Hill. So we know him really well. And then Brian Thomas continues to be one of the top 5 rookies. And we talked about him in our draft special, and he's been even better than I thought it was going to be. Any thoughts about this game? And
he might be the best rookie wide receiver.
He may be.
I'm not sure who's better. I mean, I really like Adunze, but he hasn't had that kind of year. Ladd McConkey's had a really nice year, but I don't think any rookie receiver has had a better year than Brian Thomas.
Yeah, I think the kid from the Giants would probably have this kind of year.
Neighbors is in that league with him.
If he has some, competent quarterback play.
Neither has any help, so it's pretty wild.
Right.
But I think the kind of season Brian Thomas had was very encouraging.
Right, with bad quarterback play.
With bad quarterback play, bad offensive line play, bad everything.
So about an hour after this game, they fired their coach, the Jaguars, and The Colts maintained with Steichen, who's their coach, and he's actually a pretty good coach.
Yeah.
Both of these teams are kind of, trying to find themselves. I think the Colts are in a little bit better position from a roster perspective. But what do you think about these two teams in their direction? I mean, can they get better? Or I guess, where are they heading?
They need a lot of players on both sides.
Yeah.
Especially their defenses, I think. Jacksonville usually has a pretty good defense.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think this defense is very good, and their offense is terrible. So there's just not much talent on this team. That's a typical game for Travis Etienne lately.
Is Trevor Lawrence salvageable?
13 for 31, 2.4 yards per carry. It's pitiful,
You think Trevor Lawrence is salvageable?
I do, but not in this situation, not in this scenario. He has to go to a new situation with a good offensive coordinator and a team that's building around him. This team has lost players over the last few years because of cap mistakes. They're not as good as they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, they're bad. They are really bad this year.
You shouldn't be going backwards during a rebuild.
And Travis Etienne, I feel like he's been slipping. The first 2 years, he was really good.
Yeah.
He's just not the same
He's
back.
not a
anymore.
weapon.
He's not even their number one back anymore.
No.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what these two teams do. I do think the Colts are a little closer than the Jaguars.
Yeah, I do too. I think they have a better offensive line. They have better wide receivers. They've just got some nicer pieces in place, but they have almost as much work to do.
It's true. So next game was also a surprise. However, this was the battle of Mitchell Trubisky and Joe Milton. We didn't really know. We knew how Trubisky played. He's just average to below average. Actually, he's really below average. Joe Milton, we really had no idea. This was his debut game, and he just tore it up. Like, everyone was stunned how good Joe Milton looked.
I was talking to him about him a little bit in our preview.
You were. You said he was a steal because I think he went in the 5th or 6th round.
Yeah, that's who Atlanta should have taken. Atlanta should have taken, with their first picks, defensive players and get Milton in the 5th round and have a bunch of terrorizing defensive people. They should have gotten a D lineman, a linebacker, and a safety or something like that.
So do you think there's a quarterback situation in New England, or do you think Drake May is still the solid starter?
No, he's the starter. But what I'll tell you is that draft was every bit as good as we thought it was at the quarterback position. And there was no reason to go up high and go get a quarterback.
Milton looks like he could be a starter. He really does.
He can be a starter.
Yeah.
In fact, they were showing him at the combine. He was throwing the ball like 75 yards in the air.
Right.
Without stepping into it.
Yep.
It was insane.
Crazy. Well,
he's got an absolute cannon for an arm.
What's interesting, they really wanted to win this in-conference game. They did. The Bills were resting all their guys, right? They were trying to save their coach's job. They didn't. Jared Mayo was fired 30 minutes after the game. And now everyone's thinking that Vrabel's going to come in and be the next coach. We'll see. But apparently they've also asked permission to talk to Mike McCarthy of the Cowboys.
Yeah.
That was really interesting.
And they haven't said yet whether Dallas allowed them to talk to him yet or not.
And the Bears also asked the Cowboys to talk to Mike McCarthy. So there's two different teams who want to talk to him. So I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see the direction New England goes in. I kind of like to see them go Vrabel, bring the hometown guy back.
Yeah.
All pro. He's got 3 rings. It's got that championship pedigree. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Any concern for the Bills heading into the playoffs, or is this just when you chalk up to, we're resting all our guys?
I have concerns because I said it in the last episode or one of the last ones, two episodes ago, that a lot of commentators who are studying the Bills are worried that they haven't put together a full, complete game yet. They haven't played well on defense, offense, and special teams in the same game. And you can certainly hope that all comes together for you in the playoffs, but that's kind of a hope and a dream. And so we're not sure yet if they're going to put it all together going into the playoffs against the best teams in the league. So I wouldn't say there's huge concerns. They've played well this year. They're very healthy, relatively speaking.
I'll tell you, the Bills
Josh Allen's playing amazing. They can run the ball. Their defense is a little better than last year. So
and the Bills have two rookies who've come in that played really well. Shakir and Keon Coleman have both been really good receivers this year. So I cannot believe how many good rookie receivers there are this year. It's really amazing. And then James Cook, of course, has become a breakout star of the last 2 seasons. And
he's
gives him a chance.
The MVP, I think. James Cook. When he runs well, they're almost impossible to stop.
That's right.
But I think in asking Allen to do less, he throws the ball less than he ever has. He's better. He's more effective.
The kid that stole this game was this kid Butte from New England. He just went nuts. It was 7 catches, 117 for a touchdown.
That's right.
No one ever heard of the guy before. He clearly has some kind of practice connection with Joe Milton. Maybe they play in practice together every day or something. But anyway, that was an interesting game.
New England dominated in yardage, stuff like that. A lot of those stats. But I don't know.
So this last game was touch and go for the Bucs. The Bucs absolutely had to have the game to go to the playoffs. They were down 16-6 at halftime and were not playing well. Spencer Rattler was kind of having his way with the Bucs in the first half. And very classic Baker this almost entire season comes on in the second half and just tears it up. Plays really, really well. Makes some beautiful throws to Mike Evans. Threw that beautiful touchdown to McMillan. Bucky Irving has been really coming on, rushing for them. And they take this game in the fourth quarter. I thought overall the Saints played about as well as they can with very limited talent. But what was your thought about this game?
Well, obviously the big takeaway was Mike Evans getting his 1,000 yards for the 11th straight season. Incredible. I mean, what we watched there was amazing. I love the way Baker runs this offense. It reminds me of Detroit. Detroit just plays with a ferocity and a riverboat gambler attitude. And rushing yards, Tampa Bay had 179 and New Orleans had 64. That's a big disparity. And I really feel like that saying throw to score points and run to win is pretty accurate.
You know what? I got to tell you, I've become a Baker fan. I think he plays like a linebacker. He has like a linebacker mentality.
He does.
He doesn't slide at the end. He'll take the hit. I don't know. I think
and he's running downfield when there's a play that sort of does a misdirection. He's leading the block downfield and stuff. He's laying people out. Like he's
a
plays
football
hard.
Player.
He's a football player. Yeah.
I like that.
And he had 68 yards rushing. So that's part of it is putting him on your back and taking him. So
this was a good win for them. I think the Bucs tend to do this. They've had a lot of games this year where they're down at halftime and they come back and win. And that's been kind of the story of their season.
The biggest key in this game, I think, was third down conversions.
Right.
3 for 13 New Orleans. That's a terrible number, like not a good ratio. 10 for 16 Tampa Bay. That's really keeping drives alive.
They talk about being great late, right?
Yeah.
There was a game about 4 weeks ago between the Buccaneers and Panthers, my Panthers, and the Panthers were leading the entire game all the way into the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter, Baker had been playing terrible all day, and he has like one of those quarters that he steals the game from the Panthers. And he has that capability. He can play badly for 3 quarters and then turn it on,
Like Mahomes.
Yeah.
Do you want to face Mahomes being up by 6 with a minute left?
No.
And Mahomes has the ball?
A minute left, maybe. 2 minutes, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's just so automatic. It's crazy.
I got to be up by more than one score if I'm playing Mahomes.
I want to be up 20 points with a minute left.
Yep.
Then I'll feel good.
Yep. 14 points or more.
This next game was crazy. It was 2 third-string quarterbacks. Drew Lock against Tanner McKee.
Yeah.
Somehow Tanner McKee, no one's ever heard of the guy. He was a practice squad, undrafted free agent, comes in, plays his first game, and wins. He's now 1-0 in the NFL. Has a pretty decent game. Will Shipley, who used to play for Clemson, had some nice runs. Dotson, who used to be with the Commanders, played well.
Yep.
Goddard. But the Eagles rested all their starters.
Yeah.
And somehow come away with a win here.
A bunch of linemen, Saquon, Hurts, all these guys got rest.
They literally weren't even trying to win this game, and they won it.
Well, I think they wanted to win with their backups. They were throwing a lot to what was this called? Smith.
Yeah. It just didn't feel like they're really trying to win it. But I'm not saying not trying at all. I'm just saying like they weren't giving it their all to try to win this game. So that's how bad the Giants are.
Well, I think they decided that having rest going into the playoffs was more important than getting this last victory.
That's right. Malik Neighbors did have a really nice touchdown on this one. It was fun to watch.
Oh,
He's had a really nice season.
He's had a great year. He's clearly one of the top young wide receivers.
But the Giants are just a complete dumpster fire. They just reiterated that they're keeping their coach, which surprised everyone. But
Dable's staying.
They are a dumpster fire. I have to think they're going to draft a quarterback, whether it's first, second, third round. Try to develop somebody because they're just in a lot of trouble organizationally. But anything else you can take from this one?
Not really. Red zone 2 for 4 for Philly and 0 for 1. The Giants. Just weren't getting anything really accomplished. And first downs 21 for Philly and 10 for the Giants. So more than twice as many first downs.
Drew Lock had maybe one of the worst picks I've ever seen in my life. He threw a floater untouched in the pocket into quadruple coverage.
Yeah.
Like he not only didn't zip it in there, it was like something you and I would throw. It was like a floater. And yes, it was picked off. There was like 3 guys trying to pick it off. So I don't know. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback, me personally, but
yeah,
we'll see. So Lions take on the Vikings. This game was absolutely epic. We were so excited the entire weekend for this one. This was 2-14-2 teams, which has never happened before, playing for the division win and the number 1 seed in the NFC. And everyone assumed the Vikings would win this game because the Lions are literally like a MASH unit right now. They have 12 starters on IR. And really people were wondering whether the Lions could even field the defense. And
they have 9 of their starting 11 defenders on.
Not only did they field the defense, but they played out of their minds. I mean, they literally. Sam Darnold was uncomfortable the entire game. He was 18 for 41. He had a 17 QBR.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff played his normal solid game. He always played. He did have a couple picks, but for the most part, played pretty solid. Jahmyr Gibbs had the game of his life with 170 total yards and 4 touchdowns. He was totally unstoppable. St. Brown, of course, is really great. Laporta, all these guys that are kind of unstoppable. Justin Jefferson did not have the game he usually has. He was really disappointing in this game.
Yeah.
He had 9 targets and 3 catches. And
54 yards.
And then Cam Akers and Aaron Jones both had, a couple nice runs, but for the most part were kind of disappointing.
Yeah,
so
they were ineffective.
What happened in this game was interesting. The Lions blitzed the Vikings 65% of the plays. They just brought the house on every play almost. And what surprises me about that is Darnold has a lot of experience. And they were saying in the ESPN coverage after the game, they said, do you realize that if they had done that blitz package against any really experienced quarterback like Tom Brady or Mahomes or Josh Allen, they would have eaten them up. They would have loved it. But Darnold didn't look like that at all. He looked so uncomfortable. He looked like he didn't know how to handle it, didn't know where to go with the ball. He was like force throwing screen passes to try to get it out. He just
I
wasn't.
saw a lot of pressure without blitzing, Tom.
I know.
What they did was they were really effective at puncturing the pocket on the ends. The ends were effectively getting upfield and pushing inward, forcing Darnold up into the pocket, and then the middle got hard pushes, and he was having to throw it basically into crazy coverages. Some of the camera angles showed you how many Lion defenders were in the throwing lanes. It was crazy. It almost looked like there was about 15 Lions out there versus 11 for the Vikings. It was crazy. They were so effective at getting pressure, and it was coming in fast. It wasn't pressure that got there eventually because Darnold was holding it too long. It was 1, 2, and then he's throwing it and getting hit. It was wild. So it just the way they were defending was a nightmare for Minnesota.
I'll tell you, Detroit also has a linebacker named Anzalone, who they showed his arm, and he has a plate in his arm, and he plays with a cast over his plate. He's been hurt much of the season, but he came back in this game because they were so desperate. And he played like a man on fire, like a man possessed. He looked like Luke Kuechly or something in this game. Yeah. He was just everywhere. He was in the backfield. He was always in the hole.
That's what I'm saying. These guys were moving around, just creating havoc. It was wild. First downs, Minnesota had 14 and Detroit had 24. That's a big difference.
Right.
Time of possession, 36 to 23 minutes.
So is this just an attitude culture thing?
Yes. Yeah.
Because it just
I've thought of it now. So I think it was Jimmy Johnson, one of the big time coaches, said that the best coaches are able to maximize the momentum in your favor and slow down and take away the other guy's momentum when it's in his favor. So they'll call a timeout. They'll do a play that slows things down, changes the subject. They'll try and score right before half, so they come out at half and the lead isn't as big. They're doing all kinds of things, keeping in mind what momentum is doing to your team or for your team. And so I think what I realized today when I was driving around listening to sports radio was that is how Dan Campbell coaches. He coaches to try to maintain the initiative like a military force that goes on the attack actually does better and has fewer casualties, that kind of thing. If you maintain the initiative and maintain momentum, then when it swings away from you, you're able to get it back quicker because you're emotionally charged. And this plays right into why I think they should go for it on fourth down where most other teams shouldn't.
What's interesting is who goes.
I saw a huge rise in fourth down attempts this last couple weeks, and people have been very unsuccessful in going for fourth down. Most teams have been 1 for 3, 1 for 4, 0 for 3. It's not a successful play, and I guarantee you, analytics put that on the map for people to go for fourth down. Analytics probably told coaches to do that, but there's no way analytics is still saying that with the numbers I'm looking at. But I think one of the only teams in the league that should go for it on fourth down frequently is the Lions, because it's part of that mystique and that trying to seize the initiative and trying to maintain the momentum.
Guess who goes for fourth down more?
If you punt the ball away, you are giving the other team some momentum coming back at you. They're against that. You know what I mean? They're all about protecting the momentum as hard as they can. So I think it fits their coaching style. So
guess who runs fourth down plays more than any other team in the league? Number one.
I looked this up the other day. It's not the Lions.
It's the Detroit Lions. And guess who
It wasn't 3 weeks ago.
That's what it is. Detroit Lions are number one in running fourth down plays. Guess who
But
runs
they
the
should.
least? Guess who runs the least number of fourth down plays? Number 32.
Somebody's old school.
The Vikings. The Vikings. And what's funny is Cowherd today was talking about he noticed that O'Donnell kept going for it in this game for fourth.
He was 0 for 3.
Yeah, because he thinks that he was going for it because he knows he's playing the fourth down masters. And he's like, if I don't go for it on fourth in this game, I'm going to get left behind. I'm going to get less than the dust.
Well, they did.
And yeah,
they were 0 for 3 on fourth down.
So it was a little bit of a mental game in this game. This is a coach mental game. This is
what I'm saying.
And the Vikings don't usually go for it. And of course, they're not good at it because they don't go for it very often. And the Lions,
I don't know. What I saw all weekend was failing on going for it on fourth down.
By the way,
except the Vikings. I mean, except for the Lions.
On 2 of those passes that were 4th and 1, 4th and 2 at the goal line, on 2 of them, Sam Darnold missed the guy. The guy was wide open. These were just bad misses by Darnold.
But he's under pressure.
Yeah. So. If you look back at it, you'll be surprised. He just missed some passes he usually hits. He's been hitting those all year.
When you're 0 for 3 on fourth down, you should not go for it on fourth down.
Yeah. But I mean, these were passes he should have hit. I mean, these were wide open to Justin Jefferson in the corner of the end zone. He's got to hit those, So they were going for it because they felt pressured by the Lions. And this is my point. Lions going into the playoffs, the reason they're so dangerous is they put unrelenting pressure on you, even psychologically.
They play with emotion.
Like coaches coming in feel like it's a chess match and they've got to keep up with Dan Campbell. And sometimes you can't do it. So it's just a really interesting dichotomy there. So do you think the Lions are the better team here? If they played 10 times, how many times will the Lions win?
7.
7? Mm-hmm. I think it's right. I think that's about right, yeah. I think they're clearly the better team.
I like the Lions the Vikings defense.
Yeah.
And I think their offense is good. I just think that the Lions D was playing really well yesterday.
Right.
So
they were just motivated incredibly, like just totally on fire.
They had the momentum the whole game.
It was wild. All right, let's look at some of the football memes from this week. This first one is levels of pain, slap, childbirth, kicking in the balls, and being a Bears fan. I thought that was pretty funny. I feel bad for our Bears friends. And also, by the way, our Cleveland Browns fans. I feel bad for them too. Gosh, it's been a long time since they've been in the playoffs.
And they're not going to be good for a while just because of the cat problem.
This was interesting just to look at one division. These guys are 28-3 against the rest of the league. It's unbelievable. These 3 quarterbacks all in the same division. You got Eagles fans in September, November, we got the best record. And then in December, make it stop. Kind of interesting. They always have kind of their late season collapses. We'll see if that happens this year. This was interesting. Joe Burrow, you've been touting him for MVP all year. He actually has better numbers overall than both Jackson and Allen, except for QBR. That's the only thing. But otherwise, he's got better numbers. Pretty incredible. What are your thoughts about this one?
I've been saying I don't know what else to say. I mean, he's on a terrible team. That's why he's not in consideration. I think that's dumb. I think you shouldn't just give awards to just the winning players.
Do you know why they say that Allen is leading in this MVP race? Do you know why? They said that it's all about perception, and apparently coming into the season because he had gotten rid of Diggs and all of his weapons, there was a perception that they were going to take a step back and be like 8-9 this year. And so there's this perception that the fact that they're 13-4 is all because of Josh Allen and he's having this remarkable season.
Yeah.
So that's why he's leading MVP votes right now. Because that was his
expectations were lower.
Expectations, yeah, exactly. This is pretty funny. You can't be one and done if you don't make the playoffs.
Love
I
it.
love that. I love that one.
Oh man.
Cowboys. Jamarcus Russell, Brian Leaf are the two biggest sports busts of all time. Can you think of any bigger ones?
Tony Mandrich.
Maybe, but these guys were number one picks. He wasn't a number one pick.
He was number 1 pick, wasn't he?
Nope. He was like 3 or 4, maybe.
No way.
He was pretty bad, though. I think you pick a number one guy, quarterback, you're expecting him to be your franchise guy for 15 years, not to flame out after 2. So, I don't know. Joe Burrow had a mediocre defense. He would be a leader in the MVP race, not Josh Allen. I think you would agree with that. Just a mediocre defense. Yeah. This one was interesting. Kirk Cousins just got benched, and then all these guys retired. Brady, Peyton, Eli, Breeze, Rivers, Big Ben, Matty Ice, all these guys. And essentially, the theory here is that we're not going to have pocket passers anymore within the next couple of years. Pocket passers will be from the Stone Age, essentially. You're going to have all guys who have two dynamics, running and passing. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, I think it just goes through ebbs and flows. I think we're moving a little bit away from throwing every down, running the ball a little better than we used to maybe 5 years ago.
But wouldn't you rather have a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson where they can actually get you a first down too?
Mostly not even for first down, but to move around and keep the play alive. Like Burrow doesn't run for first downs, but he can move around to keep a play alive.
Mm-hmm. Well, so can Michael Penix Jr. That's why he's in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm all about Michael Penix. I like the guy. I just think that the Falcons was the wrong place for him.
What about Jaden? I mean, the guy, he almost broke the all-time rushing record. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some more memes coming here. We got 2 years ago, we had Mayfield and Darnold on the same roster, and it was my Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Mm-hmm.
$60 million a year. Don't be stupid. 49ers fans make their feelings known on Brock Purdy. What are your thoughts there?
Bad decision if you do it.
They haven't done it yet. We'll see. They might just franchise him, which would be 41.
40, yeah.
41, yeah. Just franchise him. That's what I would do. This one's pretty insane. These 4 receivers are all from within a very small area of each other within Louisiana. Pretty crazy. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and Brian Thomas Jr. Mm-hmm. Like, what's in the water in Louisiana? All these receivers.
They throw every down.
That's crazy. They're all born within, the same high school system in Louisiana. Crazy. Chuba Hubbard, now 4th in single season rushing in Panthers history. Pretty cool to see there. He's had an incredible year. This one was interesting. Brock Bowers, 15 more receptions than any rookie tight end in NFL history, and was 5 receptions away from having the most catches in any rookie in NFL history. And he got that yesterday. So he has the most catches in NFL history of any rookie, receiver or tight end. So does that surprise you?
No.
He was able to do it? No.
It doesn't. I mean,
yeah. It was incredible.
That good.
I think Georgia was not as good because he was gone.
He's a unicorn, man. They just don't make more of them.
What did Carson Beck do last year? He just threw it to Brock Bowers. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
So this one's pretty interesting. Miami is going to be great next year, says Tony Romo. They're getting their guys back. They're going to be great. So Romo's really high on your team, man.
I don't know.
I
don't see why their defense is going to be good all of a sudden.
Well, they could have a really good draft.
Yeah, no, there are reasons to think it's possible, but I don't know what you're hanging your hat on thinking it's going to happen.
I don't know. He thinks they're going to be great. I guess we'll find out. This one is pretty interesting. The stats between Daniels and Lamar Jackson are virtually identical. You have Jaden actually leading in a couple of big categories, including rushing yards and touchdowns and completion percentage. So, I mean, if anybody thinks that he's not, in that top echelon kind of elite player, then they got another thing coming, I think. So this is really impressive for a rookie. Last one here. The Bills say they're about to give Josh Allen a 9-year, $836 million contract, which will be an annual value of $65 million a year. And they're going to guarantee, listen to this, $550 million of it. I mean, they're going to give him $500 million guaranteed. Wow. Like, I'm just stunned when I see these numbers. They just get bigger.
To a quarterback that runs as much as he does.
Yeah. What if he breaks his leg and,
right.
550
million.
You're going to give him $500 million guaranteed.
Yeah. That would make me want to jump through a chair or a table.
I think Josh Allen and his new bride, he just got engaged. They're going to be very happy, it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right, so here's our playoff bracket. Just got decided yesterday. We are later this week, guys, going to be giving you a special playoff preview show where we're going to be doing our predictions. So look for that. But let's talk quickly about the bracket. Robbie, you've got 2 number 1 seeds. Both have a bye, and everyone else plays on first weekend, which I really like that. I like that there's not many bye teams. So on the NFC side, the Lions earned their number 1 and bye week. You've got the first game is Vikings and Rams at Los Angeles. So Vikings have to go on the road there. You have Washington going on the road to play Tampa in Tampa. And you have Green Bay on the road against Philly in Philly. So which of those 3 games are you most excited about?
Washington, Tampa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be exciting.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think that's going to be really, really solid. I like Jaden in that one. I think Minnesota, LA is going to be a really good game. I'm excited for that one too, especially with the whole, Minnesota having to go on the road after being very close to the number 1 seed dynamic, and Matthew Stafford 2 years from a Super Bowl. Excited to see that one. And I want to see if Jordan Love can do anything in the sleet in Philadelphia. Obviously, they're used to cold weather, so I want to see if they can give Philly a game or not. So that'll be interesting to see there. If the Vikings win their game, of course, you're going to have a rematch of the game that happened yesterday. You'll have Vikings-Lions in Detroit again.
Did you hear what Dan Campbell said when he was going over to say a good game to the Vikings coach?
What do you say?
O'Connell? Is that what his name is?
What? O'Donnell.
O'Donnell, sorry. He said, hey, we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
He said that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hey, we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So over on the AFC side, you got Chargers on the road in Houston. I like the Chargers in that game. You got Pittsburgh going on the road to Baltimore. I think Baltimore's going to wipe them out. And then you have Broncos on the road against the Bills in Buffalo, and what's going to be a very cold environment.
The game I'm excited about watching is Broncos-Bills.
That one? Okay.
Yep.
That'll be good. I agree with that. So the Chiefs will be waiting on Chargers or Texans. Probably the Chargers, but I guess we'll see. We'll see if the Texans can put up a fight there. So this is going to be a really good weekend. Let's take a look at the schedule. You've got the Chargers, Texans, and the Steelers, Ravens on Saturday. That's the 4:30 and 8 o'clock game. And then on Sunday, you have 3 games. You've got the 1 o'clock game is Broncos, Bills. That's the one you were talking about. It's going to be really cool. You have the 4:30 game, Packers, Eagles. And then you have the 8 o'clock game, which is going to be really exciting, Commanders, Buccaneers in Tampa. And then they have a special game this year. They're doing a Monday night game at 8 o'clock, which is Vikings, Rams. So what do you think about this schedule? Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
It's great. There's
and
Those are
And
good
this,
matchups. I think there's a lot of parity possibilities here.
and what's crazy is this following on from a Thursday night and Friday night college football playoff games. So you got Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night. And so that's 5 days in a row of unbelievable playoff games.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, you have a lot of divorce lawyers being contacted by wives. Because let's just say this is going to be must-see TV for about 5 straight days. So it's going to be exciting. Looking forward to it. So look for our playoff preview show, guys, a little later in the week. And we'll see you then. I'm going to hand it over to Robbie for the mailbag segment.
All right. Let's do it. That's a pretty good silly picture of me.
I thought it was good, right?
We have some news headlines I like to touch on. Let's see. Kirby Smart's dad passed away. Sonny. It was really sad. He fell in New Orleans
I didn't know that.
before the game, before the Sugar Bowl, and he needed hip surgery and he died from complications. Really sad.
Oh my gosh.
Poor Kirby Smart. Like his family, they're upset. He had a rough day. Everything went bad for him. A couple other things. Jimmy Butler wants out of Miami.
I did see that.
And he's been suspended a bunch of games while they figure out what to do with him, try and trade him. And then today, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey come out and want out of Miami as well. So all my
I wasn't that surprised by Tyreek because he's just kind of one of those guys. He wants to be only competing for rings only. But Jalen,
and he said a few weeks ago he wanted to get traded. He said, I can't remember how he said it. He said it gently, but
were you surprised about Jalen Ramsey?
Jalen Ramsey? No, no. I think he kind of chasing rings too.
Okay.
So
Got it.
I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a weird trend going on where athletes' houses are getting broken into when they're out of town. It's starting to happen on a large scale. And it's happening a lot. So it's weird. There's some kind of trend where people are figuring out that athletes are out of town and they're attacking their houses. So I don't know if you saw this. LeBron's son, Bryce, committed to Arizona.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Super
pretty
cool.
interesting. Yeah. Did you hear that the Vikings bought 1,900 tickets at Detroit?
Is that
for
right?
about $2 million worth of tickets?
Oh, wow.
And then sold them back to their fans.
I noticed there was a huge section of Vikings fans behind one of the field goals.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
No, they bought a big cluster of tickets behind the visiting bench.
Gotcha.
So they could cheer them on. So that was pretty interesting. I think they got blown out, but if it had worked, I'll bet you teams would be more open to trying it. And I bet you teams try it again in the future. It was a creative way to try to minimize the home field advantage. $2 million, I mean, that's pretty outrageous. That's a lot of investment in getting blown out, but I'll bet you there's some ways they could do it.
For sure.
So that was interesting. And those were some of the headlines. There are a couple other headlines. Peterson got fired today. Mayo got fired. And which we talked about. And there are 4 openings right now, and more to follow. There will be more firings probably.
I think so.
In fact, they might do Dallas. Dallas might be going soon, but we'll see.
Or he may be interviewing for other jobs. So there may be a soft landing. It sounds like. Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's do the mailbag. First one. I love how you balance analysis with entertaining commentary at Harvey. This was about the college football playoff breakdown that we had. So that was nice. What did you think about that?
Hey, thanks, Harvey. Great comment. Yeah, we try our best to kind of be balanced and give you the best breakdown and also commentary that we can. So thanks for that.
We try to bring to you guys funny things that we find amusing along the way and hopefully that are intertwined in the storylines.
For sure.
Next one, you captured all the key moments from an incredible weekend at Christopher. This was about the college playoff preview. The first one was the playoff breakdown. That was the one that happened after the playoff was finished. And the second one was a preview.
That's
So you
awesome.
captured all the key moments from an incredible weekend in our preview.
Thanks for the great comment. We really appreciate it. And thanks for watching. And drop us another comment on, something else you'd like to see us cover. And we'll definitely do it. We love hearing from you guys on things you want us to do in the future.
It is nice hearing these encouraging words because it just kind of lets us know that we're on to something as far as what people want to hear. So I like it in terms of keep going, keep going.
Yep.
When we hear these things, obviously we want other ideas too. We want your ideas out there. Give us your thoughts on maybe a different way to look at what we're talking about or something like that.
Yeah.
But thanks for the encouraging words. Those are great. Next one. Tommy's story is so inspiring. What an incredible guest. This is about Tommy DiCarlo, our interview with Tommy DiCarlo, the lead singer of Boston. We really encourage you to go check out our episode with him. We were really proud of that episode. It had our most viewers we've had so far, and it was a lot of fun to do. We're huge fans of Boston and also DiCarlo. So what were your thoughts on that?
Hey, thanks so much for that comment. And that was an epic episode. Rob and I loved it so much. We've been big fans of Tommy DiCarlo and the DiCarlo Band and Boston, all three of them, for a long time. And it was such an honor to interview him. And, thanks so much for making that comment. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And
that was from Sandra, by the way.
Yeah, thanks, Sandra. And we're going to bring you a lot more great interviews this year, hopefully.
Yeah. We love doing music. We love music as much as sports, pretty much.
For sure.
Next one. This is such a fun series. Keep it coming. At Droove. This was our follow-up to Weird Sports. This was Weird Sports Part 2. This is such a fun series. Keep it coming. So we need to do more of those.
That's great. Yeah, we have had just such good feedback for Part 1 and Part 2, and it was so fun to put together. Rob and I just look forward to it every time we do it. We have got another one coming up in the spring, and we'll look forward to Part 3. So thanks for the comment.
It is a lot of fun putting those together and seeing all the weird sports out there. It is amazing to watch what people will compete in using their animals, their herds of whatever they got or their weird equipment. They'll use anything to compete against each other, and it's hilarious.
It's funny, Robbie. I was flipping around the other day on Travel Channel, and I stopped for a second, and they were doing that camel jumping. Remember we did camel jumping in Part 2? They were showing it on TV, the camel jumping. I was like, no way.
I know. I have friends of mine now send me videos of those girls that are riding on the fake stick with the little horse head.
Yeah.
And they're jumping over like steeplechase style.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious.
We did that one in Part 1.
I know.
Yeah.
Can't remember what that was called, but
it was fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And that's it for the mailbag.
Great. Well, thanks for that, Robbie. Those were really good ones. And thank you guys for all the great comments. We always encourage you to send them to us, and you guys are doing it more and more every episode. So we just can't thank you enough for your feedback and your encouragement. And as this channel grows, we're just expecting you guys to keep piping in. So Robbie, final thoughts from this epic weekend of NFL football. We've now moved on the college side from regular season into playoffs. Now we're moving regular season into playoffs on the NFL side. We've got 5 straight days of epic football coming up. Like, how are we going to find time to watch it all?
We might be looking at the best weekend of all coming up. I will say, can you imagine being in Vegas? You'd be pulling your hair out trying to figure out lines when you can't even figure out who's starting and who's going to play and who even cares about this game.
But imagine if you're in the Caesar Sportsbook from Thursday to Sunday. I mean, just
can you imagine trying to set the lines?
You remember how much fun we've had in the Caesar Sportsbook, just cheering with all the guys? They all have their tickets in their hand.
Oh yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah. So. Yeah, anything
huge screens, everything's going crazy. Everyone's going nuts. People are ordering wings and it's so cool.
So jacked for it. It's going to start Thursday night, Penn State and Notre Dame. And from there, it's just going to flow. We're going to see next Monday's weekend recap for you guys can be really epic because we have a lot of great games to talk to you about. So we'll look forward to it.
Yep.
Well, guys, keep the comments coming, and let's watch a lot of great football the next week. We are, with this weekend recap, going to continue to do it every week for you. Even after football season, we're going to be doing a lot of basketball and baseball, and we're going to do the college lacrosse episode coming up in March, and we have a lot of great stuff coming your way. So definitely like this video, subscribe to the channel, drop us a comment. We love hearing from you, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Sports Guys.
See you. Thanks for joining us.